Flies great, right? Want to make one in just a few minutes? Then follow along. First measure out a section of can, 7.5 centimeters long. This will be the forward fuselage piece. Inspired by another amazing YouTuber, we're also going to use a Nerf gun bullet for our chuck glider. We roll our fuselage piece around it. But first we trim off 2 centimeters from the edge as shown. Oh, and make sure to catch our flight trials at the end of the video. We roll our fuselage piece around the Nerf gun bullet as shown. Then we dab glue along the outer edge and roll over to glue it in place. We move on to the rear fuselage piece. Again, we measure it at 7.5 centimeters, and then we cut it out. We use a wooden dowel to help us roll this piece. We want the front edge of the rear fuselage piece to fit snugly just inside the rear edge of the front fuselage. We also want to roll the back end of the rear fuselage piece a bit smaller if we can, so it's more aerodynamic. We cut 2 centimeters off the edge, just like the other fuselage piece. Then we roll it into shape. We test fit it inside the forward fuselage to make sure it fits, then we glue it along the edge. The overall length of our chuck glider should be no longer than 15 centimeters. If it's a bit longer, just trim the pieces to the correct size. Once we have the proper length, we glue along the edge, like we did the previous piece. We test fit the 2 pieces together. Then we make sure our 2 finished sections aren't over 15 centimeters. Perfect. Now we mark off the 2 pieces where we want to join them with a fine point marker. Then we glue them together as shown. We move on to the main wings. We measure this piece out so it's 15 centimeters from wing tip to wing tip. We roll the front edge of the can piece over to create the leading edge of our wings. This fold should be approximately 1.5 centimeters. Now we trim the piece, making it no more than 2.5 centimeters in width. We fold the wing in half, using a wooden dowel to help shape the wings to fit our fuselage. Next, we trim our wing tips into a nice rounded shape. We measure out 4.7 centimeters on the bottom of the fuselage. This is where we will need to line up the leading edge of the wing when we glue it into position. This measurement is taken from the edge of the can, fuselage, not the Nerf gun bullet. We make sure the spot is clearly marked off, then we glue the wings into position. We're almost there. Don't forget to stick around to see our amazing flight trials at the end of the video. Next, we move on to the canopy. For this piece, we're going to use clear vinyl to make a cool looking clear canopy with can lines. We learned from repeated tests that our gliders would roll over if our canopy had too much weight, so to keep our chuck glider balanced, this is the method we chose. If you're following along to build your own version of this glider, you can use this method, skip it, or you can even use the method that ZDE Designs came up with, since they were the inspiration for this attempt to make our own chuck glider. If you're opting to make the clear vinyl canopy like we did, you'll need to cut out an oval-shaped piece about 2.5 centimeters long, then you'll need to cut 2 diagonal slits at the front and rear edge of the piece, so that you can glue along the overlap to create the canopy. If you have any questions about how we did it, just hit us up in the comments. Next, we glue down the flaps where we folded over the leading edge of our wings. This will help our glider fly better once we begin the flight tests. See our unique wing dihedral? This angle is perfect for our chuck glider since we're designing it to be a distance flyer. Now we start lining the clear vinyl canopy with strips of can. This will be a painstakingly slow process, but in the end it will look really cool. You can skip this part if you're opting for a different method for your canopy. For the canopy lines, we're using solid colored blue Pepsi cans. Making canopies in this fashion is one of the hallmarks of our unique soda can airplanes. Our canopy is starting to fall into shape, and we're nearly done. It's a good thing, this one was so small, our artist nearly glued his fingers together and went blind trying to make it. But, don't worry, we think he'll live. Now, we test fit the canopy on the top of the fuselage. We want it to sit slightly in front of the wings. Once we have it worked out, we glue it into position. Looks cool, doesn't it? We're just about done, we just need to make our chuck glider's unique twin vertical tail. We've cut out a piece of can about 8 centimeters from tip to tip, and approximately 2 centimeters thick. We use the end of a hobby knife to round the piece so it fits the tail end of the fuselage. We glue it into position as shown. Then we use a ruler to bend each of the vertical tails into our unique dihedral. Now we add a piece of can to the center of each tail section, going from the base to the top edge as shown. And finally we shape it into the V-tail we've opted to use for our version of the soda can chuck glider.